Can you guys hear me okay? All right, awesome. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, so let's go ahead. We'll go ahead and get started now. We're about 5 minutes in. Thanks for waiting patiently. I had to fix something real quick. So let's go ahead and get started, okay? Oops. There we go. Okay, so everyone should have their kit that they picked up from the library. One extra thing we added was a little spoon. That wasn't on the list earlier that you saw on your screen. So everyone should have a little observation sheet. One side has the experiments we're going to do today. And on the other side, it has some blank ones that you can kind of pick and choose yourself. So we're just going to do the one that has the written experiments, experiment 1. We're going to do those today. And then if you want later on, you can kind of figure out your own experiments. Okay, everyone should have gotten also a little measuring tape. So this measuring tape you can pull, and then if you push the button here, it retracts back into the tape measure, okay? We're gonna do some measuring. So that should be fun. And everyone should have gotten a little bag of flour and a little package of hot cocoa mix. We're not drinking any hot cocoa today, it's a little hot. But today we're going to use this as sort of like a coating or a layer of the earth. Okay, so these are gonna be our simulated earth layers or surface layers that we're gonna put onto our plate. And today, these are the asteroids that we're gonna be working with. I have a larger asteroid, and then I have a teeny tiny little asteroid. Now, I'm just gonna be working with these two, but if you wanna try experimenting with a larger rock, or maybe not too large, but another rock, if you have something, or maybe even a ball, if you have like a bouncy ball, feel free to use that instead. But everyone should have gotten a large rock and a small rock. All right, so the first step, if we look on our instructions here, is to pour or scoop some of our flour onto our plate. Okay, so I'm gonna just move my paper to the side for now. Okay, open up my little flour bag, and then you can use your spoon to kind of scoop it out, or you can kind of just carefully pour it onto your plate surface. Okay, so we'll start off with that, and I'm just gonna shake it to kind of give it nice and even. Okay, so I have a little layer of flour on my plate. I'm gonna put a little bit more. Okay, now you can kind of use your spoon to smooth out the surface, but you don't want to press the flour down, because when you press the flour, it gets kind of compact and it doesn't work well with our experiments today. So we kind of want the flour to be nice and floofy, so that when we drop our asteroids onto the surface, then it kind of like explodes, right? We want a little bit of drama today. So once you have a little layer of flour, I'm just going to use my spoon to just gently, I'm kind of using the blade of the spoon to just kind of gently even out the surface a little bit. It's going to be easier to see any patterns we see. But if we even it out, just be sure not to press the flour down, okay? And then after I have my layer of flour, this is when we take our little hot chocolate mix. I'm going to open up the packet. And same as before, you can just sprinkle on from the packet, or if you want to use your spoon, you can kind of grab a scoop, and we're just going to kind of lightly dust. We're going to dust the surface of our flour, okay? So yeah, again, you can kind of just pour from the packet. Just be careful not to pour it all out, right? So we're just going to gently cover, and you sort of want a good coverage. You don't want too much of the flour peeking out. We want to definitely cover as much as the white as we can, okay? And what's great about the hot chocolate mix is that it's a different color from the flour, and it'll be easier to see the patterns that come forth from our craters, okay? Let me know if I'm going a little fast. You can either type in the chat or you can, oh, I guess that's all you can do today. We're not on Zoom anymore. So let me know in the chat if I'm going too fast or if you have a question, and I'm keeping an eye on that, okay? So, oops, I have a little bit, scrape that away. Okay. So I have my layer of flour and I have my layer of cocoa powder, okay? And you don't want to press down on the cocoa powder. Again, we just want it to kind of just lay on top of our plate here, okay? So the setup is ready. I think before we drop our asteroids down, I think what we're going to do is we're going to record a couple of things, okay? So you can use a pencil. I'm going to use a pen because it's a little bit easier to see on camera. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to trace the shape of my rock, okay? So I'm going to use my pen to trace the shape of my rock onto my paper here. So you can see I have a shape there, and I can do my smaller one. It can be a little bit tricky, the smaller ones. Try not to move it. Okay, so I have my large rock and my smaller rock. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do some measurements, okay? So the first measurement we're going to do is we're going to measure my large rock, and that is about an inch, 1 inch. So I'm going to write that this rock is 1 inch. Okay. Good scientists always record as much data as they can. And my second rock is about 1/2 inch. Okay. So it's a little hard to put it in that rock. So this time I'm going to put 1/2 inch on the outside. Okay. And the last measurement I want to make is actually the measurement of the plate. So or the measurement of the surface. So my surface sort of starts right here and ends on the other side, right? So I'm going to measure the surface, and that is about 6 3/4. So if I kind of draw a line here, this distance, the diameter of the surface, which is from one end of the circle to the other end of the circle, is about 6 3/4 of an inch. Okay. So I have my measurements. Who's ready for an explosion? I sort of jumped ahead on our, here we go. Okay, so we're on step 4 actually already. Our first experiment says to drop the small rock onto the surface. So I'm going to take my small rock here, and you kind of want to drop it from about the same height. So I'm going to do, let's see. I'm going to do about my eye height. So I'm sitting down right now, and about eye height. If you want, you can try to measure this, or maybe you can have a friend help you measure, like hold up the tape measure from the table, something like that. Or you can kind of eyeball it. Well, I'm going to eyeball it today because I don't have a friend with me. So I'm going to drop the rock from about this height. And now this small rock is pretty small, so it might not have too big of an impact, but I'm going to try to drop it right in the center. Okay. Are you guys ready for this? 3, 2, 1, drop. Oh, there. Let's see. Camera focus. Okay. So my rock fell down right about here. Let me bring that a little bit closer. You can kind of see that my rock created, you can sort of see the flour underneath, right? So it impacted past the cocoa layer into the flour layer, and so it revealed the underneath flour layer. And so where it impacted, it actually slid deeper underneath the earth. I almost have it, it almost created like a cave, right? So I'm going to go ahead and record that onto my observation sheet. So if I take a look at my my circle here, it's around here that my rock impacted. So there's my rock. I'm going to kind of color it in. And then around here was the impact zone. So my rock kind of landed right around there, and it kind of squished into the earth. So that was my first rock, okay? And you can write down your observations on the side here for that first experiment. But for now, I think I'm going to go ahead and try to dig out my tiny rock without disturbing the surface too much. Wish I had some tweezers. There we go. I made my crater a little bit bigger, but you can kind of see that the rock impacted into the surface and revealed the under layer, right? Okay, so that was experiment 1. We see that it hit and it exposed the bottom layer. So let's move on to experiment 2, where we're going to use our larger rock. This rock is about 50% bigger. So I wonder if we'll get 50% larger crater. Does anyone have any hypothesis or any guesses of what might happen if I drop a larger rock? So I'm going to go ahead. Again, I'm doing about eye height. And I'm going to drop it. Again, I'm going to try to drop it in the center. That didn't work too well last time. But let's see. Ready? Oh, there. You can see it did sort of the same thing where it kind of landed in one area. And you can see the impact. And then it shifted to another area. So it sort of bounced, right? And you can kind of see, actually, there's some white that got sprayed out or pushed out from the earth over on top of the white cocoa layer. So I have a little pattern of underlayer on top now. So again, I'm going to try to record that on my sheet. So if this is the center of my plate, it's just about off center. So I'm going to have my larger rock, color that in a little bit. And then my impact is about right here. And then we also have some spray, right? A couple of spray patterns. So this is sort of what I drew. I have the rock and where it landed or where it settled. Here's the impact crater. And then here's some spray pattern. Okay. So those are our first 2 experiments. I'm going to go ahead and try to measure out. This one was my first one. So I'm going to try to measure. This kind of made, oops, we'll do it this side. This made about a little over a 1/2 inch crater. Yeah, a little over a 1/2 inch crater. So you can write that down on experiment 1. It made about a 1/2 inch crater. And for my larger crater, it made almost a 1 inch crater. So that makes sense because the rock is larger. Every time you touch the flower, it's smooth. Your flower is smooth, Ava? Every time I touch the flower, do I smooth it out a little bit? Yeah, I try not to exactly touch the flower when I'm removing the rock, but sometimes you can't help it. I was saying, sorry, I got a little distracted. There's a little bit of a delay in the chat, so sorry if I don't answer your questions right away. But the larger rock makes a larger crater. That makes sense, right? So both of these experiments, what we did is we just dropped the rock from directly above the plate and it was straight down, right? This time, a little bit tricky and maybe a little bit more messy is I'm going to try to throw the rock or toss the rock, right? Here, let's skip ahead. I think I've been going too fast. Yes. So now we're going to try lightly tossing the rock at an angle towards the surface. So before I was dropping it directly above, this time I'm going to try to sort of toss it this angle, okay? So I'm going to start a little bit over here, and I'm going to sort of lightly toss it across this way, okay? Oh, if you just showed up, all we did was we put a layer of flour down, and then we put a little layer of our chocolate mix, and we've been dropping our rocks or our asteroids into the plate. So, Juliana says, my rock, when it touches the flour, and I put my hand on the flour sticks, and when you rub your hands, it goes away. So there will be a little bit of flour transfer to the rock and to your hands. If you find you're not having such a big impact like I am, then try maybe throwing your rock down a little bit harder, which is sort of what we're going to do right now. Okay. So I'm basically going to toss my rock down with a little more force, and we'll see if we get a larger impact. Okay. Are we ready? Let's see. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Oh, there we go. So you can see my rock completely went off the surface here, but that's fine. We can still record that on our paper. So this was 1, this is experiment 2, and now experiment 3 landed over here. You can kind of see it landing here, but it pushed almost like a valley into the surface and then fell off the plate. And you see a lot more splatter now, right? So I'm going to try to draw that onto my observation sheet. So I have the initial impact was around here, and you can see the spray goes all the way up here, and then I'm going to put, there's extra spray up here, and then the rock actually landed off of the plate. That was maybe a little too forceful, right? So I'm going to go ahead and show you. You can see the flour explodes out over the cocoa layer, and we have this nice long divot. So that was the rock coming in at an angle, right? At this sort of almost a 45-degree angle, I would say. And it created a lot more devastation, right? So we did 3 experiments. We did the smaller rock experiment, the larger rock experiment, and then we did the toss. If you want to keep doing experiments, let me see, let's grab my spoon. We can kind of reset, right? I can flip over my paper and use the other side for more experiments. So I'm going to kind of just reset my flat surface, right? And you see wherever I have white showing, you can use whatever of the cocoa powder you have left to sort of reset. I'm going to cover up that white again with my cocoa powder, trying to cover up the surface as much as possible. And then you can keep trying out different experiments. Now I'm curious to know what something much larger, if anyone like has something much larger, what their pattern would look. But I think what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to do another experiment where I throw my rock down as hard as, maybe not as hard as I can, but relatively hard, right to the center. I'm going to kind of be a little more, I'm going to do it a little bit closer, and I would just really want to see if I can get a big crater right in the middle. Okay, so let's see. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. And as you can see, nothing happened. Wonder why that was. What ended up happening is my rock hit so hard that the table actually caused it to bounce right back up before it could even spray anything, right? So in that experiment, we can conclude that that this Earth, basically the rock went through the earth. All right. Let me try one more time. I won't throw it so hard. Or maybe I'll do it again at an angle. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh, there we go. Another impact. And this time it stayed on the plate, thank God. And we have our spray pattern. I'm kind of interested to know, what do you guys think would happen if an actual asteroid hit the surface of our Earth? Because that sounds like a little scary, but it's not. It's actually been considered. Tomorrow is actually National Asteroid Day, and this was kind of brought forth with the idea of planetary defense. Okay, we need to protect our planet from asteroid impacts, because larger asteroids, if it's something much larger than this to scale, can cause tsunamis, it can cause firestorms, impact winters, all these crazy things that are possibly extinction level events, right? So that's what Asteroid Day is all about. It's all about creating awareness about the impact that asteroids can make on our Earth. And so if you want to learn more about that, someone said they will create a crater on Earth. Yeah, that's exactly what I do. In fact, I think there was the largest impact event recorded was something called the Tunguska event. I think that was in Russia. And it was this like huge event back in like I want to say before we had cameras. It was basically destroyed a forest. That was how big that impact was. So it's very important to consider, asteroid impacts on Earth is something we have to think about. Currently, there are like 16,000 known NEOs. NEOs are actually, are near Earth objects. So basically, they're asteroids that are close enough to Earth where we have to consider them might flying towards us and impacting Earth. So there are currently about 16,000 NEOs, and about 12,000 of those NEOs are larger than 50 meters. So put that into context. Basically, if that asteroid does start heading towards Earth, it's large enough that it would survive our atmosphere and actually would create a crater or something much worse. But we do have programs. NASA has some programs that are in Haleakala, the volcano telescope up in Hawaii, basically is searching for these possible dangerous asteroids. So we are definitely already have programs put in place to kind of like keep on the lookout. But I'm curious to know if anyone has any suggestions about what would we do if an asteroid was coming towards us. Would perhaps we, I don't know, shoot a laser at it or somehow deflect it away from impact, right? If anyone has any ideas, I'd be interested to see in the comment section. Otherwise, I'm going to hang out a little bit longer on the stream, and if anyone has any questions about the experiments or how to simulate what we did today, how to record your data and to make observations and compare what we observed, let me know. So I'm just going to be chilling on the stream for about another 5 minutes, and otherwise, if I don't see any questions, then I'll just end the stream, and I hope you guys had a nice day. And let's see. Let me go ahead and switch to there. Yep. So again, thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. We do have a couple of events. So if anyone was at our Sensational Sharks Zoom event this morning, we have another one tomorrow. So if you didn't see the one today, you can still sign up and see it tomorrow. It was really cool. I saw it and I learned a lot about sharks. and you'd be surprised what you can learn about sharks. So make sure you check that out. Check it out tomorrow. You can sign up on, I'm going to put the website in the chat. So you can sign up there at azusaca.gov/civicrec. And we also have our crafts every Tuesday. You can sign up for those on Zoom, or sorry, you can sign up for those on Civic Rec for all of our future crafts. Next week's craft is going to be this little frog. Kind of hard to see because it's green. Little frog. And my favorite part is the tongue when it goes whoop. That's my favorite part. So we're making these next week. I hope to see you at our next upcoming crafts and at our next upcoming live stream. So thanks again for joining us. I don't see any more questions, so I'll go ahead and end the stream today. Thank you for joining me. Juliana and Johan, thanks for watching as always. Thank you, Kinderline. And yeah, I'll go ahead and end the stream now. Bye.